In at number 10, the final Colossus. For those of you that have played Shadow of the Colossus, you would expect that this whole video would be the bosses from that game. Yes, they're that scary. The game is about taking down these giant beasts known as Colossi, with each one being more intimidating than the last. In the final fight against the final Colossus, your jaw will drop at its sheer size and power. Most of the time while fighting this boss, you'll be cowering and trying to plan out a line of attack. If you have anxiety, I suggest you find another game to play. In at number 9, the Hunter. When Dead Space first came out, the future of horror games for consoles at least looked very bleak. This game changed the landscape of what we wanted out of horror games. First of all, when you started, you weren't some soldier that had a ton of weapons at your disposal, you were simply using repurposed tools. Then when it came to enemies, the scare factor was leveled up because you never felt fully prepared to fight these parasitic monsters. The only way to kill these enemies was to dismember them, but when it came to the Hunter, that wasn't an option. Also known as the Regenerator, he could do exactly that, regenerate his lost limbs. This makes killing the Hunter while taking on waves of other enemies especially terrifying. Plus, he can kill you with just one hit. And at number 8, the female tripod. Yes, I know, another Dead Space monster on this list. This one is well deserved though. The female tripod from Dead Space 2 is absolutely terrifying. The main host of the tripod appears to be a human woman, with the most disturbing part of her body being the infant body and limbs growing from the tripod's tentacle. Whoever created this monstrosity has some demons in their closet for sure. Perhaps the scariest part is when the tripod makes its entrance by pouncing on you from above, knocking Isaac to the ground. In at number 7, Pyramid Head. I'm sure this boss has haunted many gamers and caused some sleepless nights for sure. Pyramid Head, also known as Red Pyramid Thing, is a monster that debuted in Silent Hill 2 as one of the main antagonists. After its debut, it quickly became one of the more well-known and iconic monsters in the series. Its appearance is that of a large muscular human with a triangle-shaped metal head that wields a giant sword, also known as the Great Knife. From watching people fight the Pyramid Head online, the one thing that I learned is that you never want to turn your back to this scary boss, and always stay tight to the walls. And at number 6, the Groom.
Die.
Taking a brief moment away from the insanely mutated creatures of Silent Hill and Dead Space, I bring you the monster from Outlast Whistleblower. Also known as Eddie Gluskin, he was a misogynist and serial killer that was mutilated by women. It's believed that his insanity comes from his abuse as a child, and he first appears in the underground lab where he's being forced to undergo painful restraints and experiments. Eddie was convinced that he needed to marry the woman of his dreams, and as a result, is willing to go to any length necessary to make this happen. And at number 5, Mother. This enormous, grotesque looking creature is an infected bulbous growth that used to be a woman named Elizabeth Green. I know what you're thinking, after she was pumped with blood tox from the Black Watch, you don't even recognize her. This terrifying boss is nearly 2 stories high and is equipped with 3 very large tendrils. Mother uses those tendrils to defend herself, so in order to defeat this boss, you'll have to get close enough to damage them and then attack the growth directly. And at number 4, Laura. This boss is born from the memory of Laura's tragic death, and to make her even scarier, she's immune to bullets. Yeah, good luck with that. Plus she has this crazy spider-like body with the head of Laura on the front looking like the Grudge. Laura, however, is a creature from the game The Evil Within, and perhaps one of the only ways to kill this boss is with fire. Its weakness is a reference to a barnhouse fire that severely injured Laura and resulted in her being put into a vegetative state that eventually led to her death. And at number 3, Giant Creep. The Creep is this supernatural manifestation from the memory of Harlan Wade and acts as the main antagonist in the game Fear 3. Its ultimate goal is to haunt and destroy Point Man and Paxton Fettel throughout the game. This creature isn't just a scary face either, it's also a very formidable foe to face. The only chance you have to defeat this boss is when it opens its mouth, revealing its weak spot. But before that, you'll have to avoid several dangerous tactics up this monster's sleeve. It has gigantic fists that it can smash you with, it can breathe waves of flames, and even summon these ghost-like troops for backup. And at number 2, Gaping Dragon. The Gaping Dragon is the boss in the depths and gives you the key to the upper entrance to Blighton Town. Although it's called a dragon, it's not actually a dragon, it's more of a hellish beast that requires you to change your underwear after seeing it. As the Dark Souls history goes in regards to this scary boss, it was once a dragon until its eternal hunger mutated into the Gaping Dragon beast. Where you have to be careful is when it rears its back. From there, it will slam its exposed ribcage, which acts like its own mouth. Lastly, in our number 1 spot, Nemesis. Also known as the Pursuer or the Chaser, this monster is not just terrifying in appearance, but also possesses a superior intelligence much greater than any other monster you'll encounter in Resident Evil. It's by far one of the most popular characters in the series, and many publications have even regarded it as one of the most intimidating villains. It absolutely dwarfs the size of humans next to them, making your encounters that much scarier. Nemesis is a bioorganic weapon created to be the ultimate hunter. While he's not the type to just slash you or use some paranormal tactics, he can wield weapons and possesses regenerative abilities, which makes killing him even more difficult.
Starting things off at number 10, Reaper Dawnguard DLC. The Reaper here is giving me like a 7.5 on the spooky scale. This moderately spooky specter comes from the Skyrim Dawnguard DLC and hails from within the Soul Cairn. This guy is a secret boss that the Dragonborn can summon while in the Reaper's lair by placing 3 Reaper gem fragments on the altar. He wears an executioner's cowl and armor and wields an axe. As if his appearance wasn't spooky enough with his ghostly self, he also has the ability to spit green slime.
What happened? Are you okay?
He slimed me.
This character levels with the player until level 100, and the Reaper is one of the few characters in the game who wears an executioner's hood. I think that the thing that makes this guy spooky is the fact that he's some kind of ghost. The fact that when you kill him, he drops a Daedra heart indicates that he's Daedra adjacent at the very least. But again, that's about as much spook as you're gonna get from this guy. At number 9, the Nameless King in Dark Souls 3. The Nameless King is another optional boss, this time from Dark Souls 3. This dude is also characterized as moderately spooky, though I think he's got more badassery than scariness going for him. This boss can be found in the Archdragon Peak and can be summoned by ringing the bell from the Great Belfry. The Nameless King is pretty majestic, wearing golden armor and donning long wispy ash hair and mounted on the back of his dragon steed named King of Storm.
That's fucking metal as f, dude.
He's also sort of hollow and wields a spear. If you guys get a close look at him, he looks mummified and even skeletal, which adds to the scariness of this character. It is said that he is the firstborn child of the Lord of Light and is described as a dragon-slaying god of war. There are surely other bosses on this list that are scarier than he is, but he still holds the ability to send a shiver down my spine from time to time. I mean, just look at his face. Kinda spooky. Coming in at number 8, Great Serpent, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. This next one goes out to all the Ophidiophobes out there. I want you to imagine a snake, just a plain old white snake, and then scale that bad boy up about 1,000 times. And then you've got the Great Serpent. This danger noodle comes from Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and though this mini boss isn't really anything special abilities wise, he will still scare the crap out of anyone with a phobia of snakes, Or just anyone, really. I mean, have you guys seen the size of that guy? While playing the game, you really want to sneak past the Great Serpent or risk getting eaten. You can try to battle it and distract it enough to get past it until your third encounter with the beast after obtaining the Puppeteer Ninjutsu, allowing you to then kill the snake. But up until that point, your best bet is to run fast, run far, and do not look back. In at number 7, Marguerite Baker, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
I told you to stay out of here!
Marguerite Baker is one ooky spooky lady. She was the matriarch of the Baker family, and when she and her family encountered Mia Winters and Evelyn, that's when things went sideways. Evelyn, who was a telepathically charged bioorganic weapon, infected Mia and the Baker family, including Marguerite. This led to Marguerite becoming the mutant we see her as in the game. Marguerite is now a mutated, insect-infested creature of our nightmares. Top half old woman, bottom half bug nest. She may not have that wop, but she does have a pest problem. This woman has centipedes coming out of her mouth and is able to climb up walls and just looks like a festering and decaying mess. And if that's not enough to make your skin crawl, how about the fact that she also consumes people? Yep, she is a cannibal too. The total package, isn't she? At number 6, High Lord Wolnir, Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls is really just a scare factory of a game because we're back with another boss. This time we're talking about High Lord Wolnir. Skeletons aren't really the biggest source of fear for many people anymore, but there's just something about Dark Souls that just makes them a little bit more terrifying. Perhaps it's his colossal size or the environment in which you're battling him, but the whole boss fight is just spooky central. After finding a chalice and touching it, you are then transported to a dark place where you find the High Lord. You are then set to battle the giant skeleton, and it's a tough battle too. He takes very little damage and is always trying to swat at you and crush you beneath his bony hands. Luckily, if you manage to break his golden bracelets, it allows you to deal more damage to him and defeat him, but it's still scary trying to dodge this terrifying creature. Halfway through at number 5, Mutant Megan, the Forest. This mutant isn't the cool, fun X-Men kind of mutant. She's more of the scream, run and hide and try not to pee yourself kind of mutant. This Mutant Megan character is the final boss of the forest, and if you're familiar with the game, then you must be already familiar with the other lovely mutants like Armsy, Virginia or Legsy, and my personal favorite, Worm. Love you, Worm. Mutant Megan, with her many appendages, is created from a child named, you guessed it, Megan, using the Resurrection Obelisk. This final boss is found in the research lab just before the end of the game's story. This creature is just so freaking scary. It moves with quick agility, and when it attacks you, it's chilling. There are just so many limbs to keep track of that they honestly just seem to come out of nowhere. It's got spin attacks, leap attacks, and can even spawn mutant babies, and those little blob monsters are scary enough on their own. This boss for sure has the ability to haunt your nightmares, and it's at least a 9.5 on the spooky scale. In at number 4, Scarlet, Silent Hill Homecoming. If you have a fear of dolls, this next one will for sure give you nightmares. Scarlet is the second boss you encounter in Silent Hill Homecoming, and honestly, it's enough to make me stop playing the game altogether. She starts off as the doll that belonged to Dr. Fitch's daughter, and when he drops the doll, it sinks into a pool of blood and re-emerges as this large, lanky, doll-like monster that prompts the next fight. Between her loud shrieks and screams and the fact that she can walk on all fours is scary enough, but combine that with the fact that she still retains her porcelain doll look, and it's gonna haunt your dreams. It'll make going down the Barbie doll aisle just a little bit more unsettling. She also has needle-like teeth and could really shred you to pieces if she got a hold of you. And she can also be seen covered in blood as you fight her, which really just makes things so much scarier for the player. I honestly didn't need to go into detail as to why this thing is so terrifying, because I think if you just see a picture of her, you'll know what I mean. Coming in at number 3, Panzermörder, Call of Duty World War II. If you don't find this next one to be absolutely bone-chilling, there's something wrong. Panzermörder from Call of Duty World War II is the epitome of WTF content. I'm not sure whose brain thought this up, but I think that person needs to chill out a bit because this creature is straight out of hell.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
In this game, game, this creature is the final boss and is essentially created by a mad scientist as a Nazi effort to defeat the Allied forces. It is a combination of flesh and metal and contains the bodies of multiple humans. Its entire body shows bits and pieces of human anatomy like spines, legs, heads, and more. Its mouth is made of several human heads, and this beast is super strong. When the Panzermortar attacks, it can deplete 1 armor per hit, but it's not like you want to get too close to this thing anyway. Luckily, as the final boss of the game, you're able to get through most of the game's story without having to encounter this monstrosity, so your gaming experience isn't ruined, but upon encountering this guy, I don't know if I'd want to continue playing. I think I'd just tap out then and live the rest of my life Panzermortar free. At number 2, Amalgam Alpha, The Devil Within. Here's another monstrosity for you guys, as if you weren't freaked out enough by that last one. Amalgam Alpha is another mashup of corpses and flesh with just a dash of Hellspawn thrown in for good measure. He's got chains flowing throughout that disgusting mass of flesh, and though many of the bodies incorporated into this disastrous creature are dead, some of them are still alive and conscious through this entire thing. Could you imagine being one of the people still kicking when combined into this literal demon? That's almost as scary as actually encountering the beast. Amalgam Alpha stands at 4 meters tall and has a large eye stalk that it uses to scan its surroundings looking for its prey. If you happen to be one of the unlucky few that becomes its prey, be warned that this guy can crush a human flat in just 1 hit. This terrifying, bloody, fleshy, gore-filled monster could make even Satan himself cry, and that will, for sure, end up walking through the path of your nightmares. Finally at number 1, Rom the Vacuous Spider, Bloodborne. I'm putting this one at number 1 just because it scares me the most. Yeah, sure, the last 2 were grotesque, gory flesh monsters, but this one hits too close to home because it's a spider, and I would rather scoop out my eyes with a hot spoon than have to deal with a spider, especially this one. Rom the Vacuous Spider is probably the equivalent to what hell looks like. She's a giant spider with like 2.3 billion eyes and has the ability to summon spiders to fight alongside her. She's rounder than a normal spider and has many small and thin legs, but that's not to say that she's not terrifying. Just her papaya seed eyes alone are enough to make you break out into a cold sweat. Rom can also teleport, so that's great. Imagine fighting this beast for it to just teleport away from you and summon a bunch more spiders to come and fight you.
You eight-legged freaks!
The whole boss fight is just a big ol' nope. There's too many spiders, legs, and eyes for me to sit comfortably and focus on the fight. My skin is just crawling thinking about it.